Good morning. It is Monday morning, meaning it's time for some Motivational Monday. My name is Christopher Donnell, the pastor here at Urbana UMC, and so glad that you are joining in with us today. We recently have been on a kingdom journey throughout church. We spent the entire month leading up to the election through October talking about the kingdom of Jesus and what that means for politics. And then we moved into the month of November talking about generosity and what this kingdom generosity looks like. And I was asking the question this week, when we are presented with an invitation to be generous, do we look for the bare minimum to participate and then check it off the list, or do we look for ways to be extravagant? And for example, super guilty of this when you're driving and you stop at a stoplight and there's someone there asking for money and they have a sign and it's like, don't make eye contact, don't make eye contact, make eye contact, depending on how you're feeling a day. And you kind of wonder maybe at least I do, what's the minimum I can either help them out with. I don't typically think of how extravagant or generous I can be. And that's a whole nother can of worms when you talk about giving to people and persons and you're trying to make sure they're being good stewards of their money and not go wasting it. Ultimately, that's not our responsibility what people do once we give them something. It's a gift is a gift. It should have no strings attached. And so the question is do we look for what's the bare minimum I can get, or what's the maximum impact I can make? And I was thinking about treasure. Obviously, we're talking about being generous with our time, how we serve, our gifts, what are our abilities that we can give to grow God's kingdom, and even the resources, physical resources, financial resources. How can we give generously in all of those areas? And when we talk about treasure, Jesus also talks about treasure. He says in Matthew 13:44 through 46, he talks about the parable of the hidden treasure and the pearl. Jesus says the kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field. When a man found it, he then hid it again, and then in his joy went and sold all he had and then bought that field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant looking for fine pearls, and when he found one of great value, he went away and sold everything he had and bought it. And this is maximum effort. This person, this parable, found a treasure, a pearl, and he knew it was so valuable that he got rid of everything else he had and then went and invested it in this hidden treasure, this hidden pearl. And I think that's the question that we have to ask: is what are we willing to invest to grow the kingdom of God? Are we looking to just do the minimum and check it off the list, or are we looking to do the maximum impact that we can do? If we found ourselves in a Harvard dorm room 35 years ago and we bumped into this guy named Mark Zuckerberg, and he begins to tell us about this big idea of this thing this idea he has called Facebook, and knowing what we know now, and we're back in time with this guy named Mark Zuckerberg, and he says, would you invest in Facebook? I mean, what would we do? Would we sell everything we have at that point, which would be trivial in amounts of money compared to what Facebook is now worth? Or the same with Steve Jobs. If you were in Southern California and you went by a garage and you saw Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs in a garage, and they said, please invest in our Apple computers, we just need a couple $100 now, what would that couple $100 be worth today, if knowing what we know now? And I think that's what it's the question that Jesus is asking is, what are we willing to invest into the kingdom? It's a treasure worth seeking. It's a treasure worth giving everything up for. And Brother Lawrence, in his book, The Practice of the Presence of God, he says this: how happy we would be if we could find the treasure of which the gospel speaks. All else would be as nothing. As it is boundless, the more you search for it, the greater the riches you will find. Let us search unceasingly, and let us not stop until we have found it. So the question for you and for me this morning is, what are we willing to invest in the kingdom of God? I know many of you come to our church, many of you don't. And the invitation is to invest in the kingdom, not just a church. The invitation is to look for the treasure, the pearl of great price, that you would bring God's kingdom from heaven to earth here and now in our midst, in our time, and asking God to use us in that, and that we would search fervently for it. We would almost give up reckless abandonment to worldly things as we search for this hidden treasure called the kingdom of God. As Brother Lawrence again said, it is boundless, and the more you search for it, the greater the riches you will find. So I invite you to search for those riches with me this week as you ask the question, where is that hidden treasure, and what am I willing to do to invest in it? Have a great week.